Hello, welcome to another episode of Drinking with Comics. I'm Sean, and we're going to do our new comic book day roundup, but I'm recording this on Thursday. I'll try to get it out today, too. I'm a day behind because of Halloween. So, luckily, it was a light week. So, let's go through what I picked up, what I would recommend. Uh, Issue 28 of Duggan and Cassara's X-Men. This is the regular team book. We're still in the thralls of Fall of X. Now, with the announcement I went over last week, Rise of the Powers of X and Fall of the House of X. We know where we're going. We're not exactly sure what the landscape's going to be when we get there, though. This issue deals primarily with Sunfire, who I'd completely forgotten about and is carrying around uh, what I'm assuming is like a Krakoan version of Groot. And basically, this isn't really a spoiler. Uh, this is just the first couple pages of the book, and he seems on the verge of death, wandering some kind of wasteland, and Apocalypse finds him and restores him. So mentions going to war. That's where we start. We deal a lot with Juggernaut and Cyclops still being held by Orcus, and Firestar being the double agent, supposed double agent. End of the issue. I won't go into that. It sets up something I don't really care about, but we'll see. One thing about this post Hickman run, the writer, especially Duggan, I really I have faith. They can take stuff I don't care about and make me interested in it, so that's cool. So that was X-Men 28. Then that was all my regular stuff. So what I picked up on a lark. So Szymon Kudranski, who, if you're not familiar with him, he did the art most recently on Steve Niles' book Town Called Terror, which I really liked. Still hoping that comes back for another arc. But this is Sysman's own book, created, written, and art by, and this is under Image Comics. This is Blood Commandment. Not a great title. I really like this guy's art, so I picked it up. It's very verbose. There's a lot of dialogue. It's fine, not a complaint whatsoever. It still moved quickly. Deals with a man and his son who live deep in the woods, maybe Pennsylvania, somewhere East Coast, Midwest, Appalachian. They got to drive to a little dollar store to order goods for their home or to get food. And it's clear that there's something up with these two, the father especially, like he's not telling the kid who's 14, like his whole history and whatnot. And I mean, you kind of see it coming a mile away. He's some form of monster. And there are other monsters that are stalking him. And so I guess he's been trying to keep his son safe. And, this is where we are now. He's been found. Really liked this book, actually. It's kind of cool. Like, it kept going even to, like, the story runs from, you open the book and you get your inside cover with your credits, and then it starts, right? It runs all the way through to the back cover of the book. I don't know that I've seen that before, or at least if I have and not in some time. Sysman's art is absolutely stunning again. And I'm gonna take the ride on this one. I'm very interested. It reminds me of Town Called Terror a little bit, or it's a horror comic, Beware the Beast Within kind of thing. But so far, I'm interested. So I'll definitely be picking up number 2. And then lastly, so a couple months ago, there's a company now, American Mythology Productions. I had not heard of them until earlier this year. They started putting out a Night of the Living Dead comic, and this is like officially licensed from the Romero estate and whatnot. And I love the first 3 Romero movies: Night of the Living Dead, the original; Dawn of the Dead, the original; Day of the Dead, the original. And not so much a big fan of Land of the Dead. We talk about this kind of thing at length on my podcast, The Horror Vision, so definitely check that out. But so the first series, Night of the Living Dead, it was a 4-issue arc, and it really just retold the movie Night of the Living Dead, but added a few extra things. So you got to see Barbara's brother Johnny. You got to see a little bit of how he ended up after Barbara ran from him, and he gets knocked on the head and left at the tombstones. You got to see how he ended up at the house as a zombie. You got to see a little bit more of Ben's character, which I loved. You got to see a little bit more of the you've got the large group of men moving through the countryside in Night of the Living Dead under the command of I think it's the sheriff or whatever, and they're taking him out. And obviously, famously, the one shoots Ben at the end without even bothering to. I mean, having just watched it again for Halloween, it's always mind boggling when you get there because he's clearly not a zombie. So the kind of criticism of racism is definitely there. Shoot first. Don't even ask questions later because who cares, right? He doesn't look like me. Fuck that guy. But they actually did something where you saw that hunter and it kind of gave a little bit more context. It didn't make it okay, but I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, right? So that ended, and I liked the series. It was written by S.A. Czech, James Kahoric, and art by Giancarlo Carcuso. So now they're back and they're doing another, what I believe is a 4-issue arc, and this is called Night of the Living Dead Kin. I picked up the first 2 issues. I forgot about it last month. And so my one thing with these is I don't love the art. It's not that the art is bad. I just don't think it belongs in a Night of the Living Dead comic. It's a little too cartoony. It doesn't 100% work for me. However, it's not bad art. And just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. And also, I'm going to read it anyway because my thing with those first 3 Romero movies, I love seeing the progression of the post Night of the Living Dead world. So, you go from night to dawn to day and you see more and more. And so that was originally what I loved about the Walking Dead, the comic, not the show, the comic. We talked about this on this show a bunch of times back, a couple of years ago when that was still running. And when we eulogized its final issue, Walking Dead was originally going to be called Night of the Living Dead because that was public domain. And Kirkman wanted to just show the progression of Romero's world. So he ended up doing his own thing with it. It's great. And you could definitely interpret it as exactly that, a progression of that world. But this is interesting because it's licensed. And so with Kin, it seems like I'm wondering if they're going to do a bunch of these. This starts so about the same time as Night of the Living Dead, where you're seeing characters that don't know this is happening yet. And it then like they first encounter, like it deals with a young girl named May. And it's like they live in the woods. They're like a Appalachian farming community. Her uncle dies. She was close to him. They bury him, and then he comes back. And then it was actually pretty cool. The first issue, I was like, it's okay. But it ends with the May character and the uncle, the reanimated uncle, both falling into this like gully, and they're both basically suspended by like these vines or tree branches, and they're almost next to one another, just out of reach. And so that was like a cliffhanger, like, oh, will she, get away? Will he be able to get to her? And so the second one picked up with that, ended with another cliffhanger. I don't love these, but I like them. And another really big draw for me, both the original series and this one, the covers, they're using stills from the movies. And I think that's fantastic. Again, written by the same team, drawn by the same artist. And S.A. Czech and James Kahoric, they also are doing they're doing a comic for Adam Green's Hatchet, which I keep forgetting is out there. I'm going to check that out at some point. I'm assuming these come out in trades. I'm pretty sure I saw that first Night of the Living Dead that American Mythology put out come out in a trade after it finished. And actually, also, American Mythology is doing a Silent Night, Deadly Night comic. Not the biggest fan of that series of movies, but anyway, because Night of the Living Dead and those Romero movies are close to my heart, I'm reading this. And if you really like Night of the Living Dead, I would say check it out. And like I said, the art might not bother you the way that bothers me. So who knows? So, okay. So I'll be back next week with more books. But until then, drink good beer and read good comics. Hi, I'm Sean. Join me and my friends every week for the Horror Vision, where we talk about horror movies.
A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities, as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20 soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadow Play in Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet, Murder Virus, available where books are sold.